I finally got to fulfill my dream of writing and directing and producing, raising every dime of financing, everything for Continue, which was my passion project and based on my true story of surviving a suicide attempt. The only reason I'm on this planet right now is because I'm sober. Because anytime I drank, I attempted to hurt myself. You have no idea what tomorrow will bring unless you stay. So all I wanted to do was to talk about it, essentially, to let other people know they're not alone, you know? I feel like it's a really isolating feeling in those moments.
Welcome to the podcast, Nadine. It's hard for me just to look at you like normal now that I've seen Continue. It's so amazing and intense. So why don't you just introduce yourself for the people who haven't seen it, or kind of just who you are and what you do.
I'm Nadine Crocker. I am a filmmaker. I started in acting and moved to Los Angeles when I was like 16 years old. Mm-hmm. And then in 2019, I finally got to fulfill my dream of writing and directing and producing, raising every dime of financing, everything for Continue, which was my passion project and based on my true story of surviving a suicide attempt. And we donated part of the proceeds from that film to charity. I created my own nonprofit, and I just created a series called Continue On, which elevates mental health storytelling and everyday triumphs people have over their mental health and the tools that help them do that on a daily basis. So that's developing. Our second episode comes out in November.
Love that.
Thanks. Yeah. And I had my second film, Desperation Road, come out. It actually came out before Continue, but it was my second film. It took me a little while to find the right home for my first film.
Okay.
And yeah, now I have several films I'm shooting next year, and my entire career path pivoted from acting to writing and directing, and I've never looked back. And I'm also a mother to an 8-year-old, a wife. I'm 10 years sober as of this month.
Amazing.
Yeah, so lots of
shit's really popping up.
Yeah, shit's popping up.
I love it. So you started out acting. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, how did you get into it?
I mean, my actual origin story is really funny because I think it's funny because it started at a convention that you hear on the radio.
Oh, wow.
I'm from Fresno, California, and there isn't a lot of places to go be discovered in Fresno, California. Okay. So it was one of those radio, and I had already been acting, and I had started modeling in 3rd grade, and my first agency was in San Francisco, so I drove back and forth a lot of my childhood. And then I knew I wanted to be an actress. I knew that from a child. So basically modeling was the first step to try and get me closer to that dream. And then it was my sophomore year, I finally heard this convention and I went and did it. And it was for modeling and acting. And if you got approved, then you could do a monologue in front of all the same people that you walked the red you did the catwalk in front of to see if you could get an agency, you know? Okay. And I'm 5'5", so I didn't get a lot of modeling calls being a tiny little person. But I did get, I was amongst the people at that convention for the most callbacks for acting. And so I ended up getting a ton of meetings from that with managers and agents, and came out to Los Angeles around 16, was commuting back and forth. And then
you'd commute back and forth by yourself?
No, my mom. And my mom, we were very poor and, just doing our best. And so it eventually got to the point where my mom's I have a full-time job. And we would go for an audition, and then we'd just get home from 3.5 hours there, 3 hours back, to Fresno. And we'd hear that I got the call back and I had to be there the next day. And it got to the point where my mom was I do believe that you should do this. You obviously have a calling for this, but I can't keep driving you here every day. And so my parents did finally eventually make the call to let me move there at 16 years old. And yeah, officially fully lived there by 17. My mom's always you were 17. I was I was 16 when we got the place. But yeah, I don't know what made them think I was responsible enough for that. Yeah, I lived by myself and started auditioning and got with a pretty big agent at that time with zero, credits on my resume before that. I did a scene from Girl Interrupted, which now that you've seen my movie, tell me that doesn't make a little bit of sense.
A lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that was my journey. And
in Hannah Montana.
Hannah Montana was like my first real acting credit. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Miley was like a dream.
To get first.
Yeah, it was. It was so exciting. I just like remember my parents put my one line, by the way, with the character didn't even have a name, and they put it on a t-shirt. Like, they were so proud, and we were very proud. But yeah, Hannah Montana was my very first like credit.
And so then it was just a grind up.
Yeah, auditioning, testing for a lot of stuff. I really kicked ass in a lot of ways, but it always was like I was the runner-up, like if this name doesn't take it, then it's yours, or we'd like you to look at the best friend instead, and then you're too pretty to play the best friend next to that lead. And so it was just like a lot of years of struggle and getting really close and getting some credits under my belt, which I feel really, blessed that I got to do. But as an artist and like a person who has a deep desire since childhood to emote and to show the world what I had inside of me and creativity and stories I wanted to tell, it was never enough. I remember like even when I was with my husband and a baby, in a crib, crying on our kitchen floor, just being like, I feel like I'm going to die and the entire world's never going to know what's inside of me, and that's what made me finally go, I'm done waiting for people's permission. I'm going to put this film together myself. And so I invested a huge chunk of my own money for Continue.
Yeah.
Raised every dime of capital.
How'd you do that?
By the graces of God.
Did you have some buy-in by that point? Like, you had an acting career?
Not in filmmaking. No, because like everyone kind of wants to know, like, well, what have you done before this, right? And it's great that you've acted, but how does that help me with writing or directing? They're like,
that makes sense.
What experience do you have in that? And why should we give you our money? And, and I also was trying to tell a very heavy film, or like a film about heavy subject matter that's not very commercial. So a lot of people were nervous, but the truth is that these people came into my life, numerous people that had experienced loss to suicide. And I think that that's what made them really respond to what I was trying to do, because I wasn't just trying to create a film. I was trying to create a movement and an opening of a conversation around mental health and suicide prevention. And once you've seen my film, that makes a lot more sense, because there's some twists and turns that people shouldn't hopefully know are coming their way.
Yeah.
And those were the twists and turns that people were the most nervous about. And so I had to try and convince them that people were going to love those twists and turns, and that they might be risky, but that's what great filmmaking is. It's exploration. It's trying something new.
I don't think it could have been great without every twist and turn. Like, it would have been too just predictable and ordinary.
Even after I made it.
If you can even call a suicide attempt ordinary. But I just think that it was very rich in all the twists and turns and the characters. Let's get into this movie a little bit, because I have so many questions. And I feel like everyone should press pause, go watch it, and then come back and listen, because there's some things I got to know. Well, first, what made you want to tell the story? Obviously, you wanted to tell your truth, but tell me a little bit about that. And were you ever worried about how you would be perceived personally?
Well, I'll answer that one first. I still think about it all the time, and it's like people will still say comments that are also like wildly inappropriate, or like I remember the first film festival, I'm finally there and like we're being interviewed, and they give us a God, I can't think of the name when they're interviewing you for a Q&A, and the woman was just like didn't know what to say, and she just like looked at my husband, who's a producer on this and an actor in the movie, and was like, so what's it like to be with someone so messed up? And you're just like, you just asked me that in front of everyone I know on a fucking stage, like, which I made this movie to break the stigma. Your exact question just further the
I don't
stigma.
know if I'd continue that interview.
Well, what do you do when an entire theater just sat through your but even oh my God, my friends that were in the audience were
probably felt
pissed.
Yeah.
Because my one friend had a mental health film there too, and like knows my mission is all about suicide prevention and like breaking the stigma. So when you immediately say something so stigmatizing and like gross to ask someone in front of all of these people, you know? It's just like, so yeah, I mean, it'll always cross my mind, you know? But I've gotten to the point where it's like, it says more about them if it bothers them than it does about me. And the truth is I'm not going to change who I am, and it's not going to change what I've been through. And so if they don't like that, then they aren't going to like me, and that's okay. You know, I've become very okay with, I guess, not being liked if that's, if you know, like I'm willing to.
What was the driving force?
Yeah. So to kind of answer your other question in a very, you know, quick, not to go too far into it, but I was in an acting class, and our teacher at that time was really open to letting us explore creatively. And so I started writing scenes of a lot of things that I kind of wanted to work through from my own personal life and from that time.
Okay.
And scenes that ended up being in the movie, like by the pool, when she's trying to explain suicidal ideation and how it's a lot like a drinking, you know, like getting sober. An alcoholic's always going to want to drink. And a girl with bulimia is always going to think about going to the bathroom after a steak dinner, right? So that was a conversation from my actual life that I had with my mother. And so I turned it into a scene. And so like writing those scenes, right? I was trying to kind of work through some moments from my life. And when I finished putting the scene up in class, when the class was over, I had people waiting to talk to me after and waiting to basically say, me too. And waiting to say, I made many attempts, and waiting to tell me their story. And then I really understood in real time that this was a device to get people to open up about their stories, to make them feel not alone, to break the stigma, to start to have real conversations in my life that I wanted to have, you know, like telling people, because I think people look at me and I get that expectation a lot. People don't expect me to be however I am, I guess. So open or deep, or have had, you know, real bouts with suicide, because I'm a pretty positive person now. And it's like, well, because I come from extreme darkness, I can really appreciate the light now, and I try and gravitate towards the light, but it doesn't mean that darkness wasn't there or it's not still in me, right? But I realized it could be a real device. And so my entire mission, I come from a family of suicide. I've watched my dad hold a gun to his own head in front of me, which isn't something I've, you know, talked about that many times, but like, so suicide runs deep in my family. I'd already experienced loss from it. I'd already seen my dad battle, but by the time I was,
and he died by suicide.
No, he that was different. That's about my grandpa, because it was like, how do I bring in part of my dad's story from like experiencing losing a parent, and like how deeply that traumatized our whole family in that way. And so rather than being like, oh, I lost my grandpa and I don't have, was, I made it first person so that my character could say a lot of the words I had talked to my dad about since I was young, you know? So the true reason behind Continue and making Continue is that I was hoping I could prevent people from ending their lives, and to realize, because basically once you've attempted and then you see what comes after is the only real way you can fully
man, that was heavy when right after, like just the pain that the people who you leave behind experience, like that was highlighted so well, I thought.
Well, that's what I was trying to say, is basically like, and again, not saying too much because I try never to give away.
We're giving it away.
I know. Nadine, okay, cool.
We're giving it away.
We can give it away. Listen,
I cannot help myself because I have real questions about specific things.
That's okay.
I already thought it through. We're giving it away.
We're giving it away. I don't give. The movie's been out. It's different when I did these interviews and the movie wasn't out yet. I'm like, I can't tell you what the secret is.
That's their problem.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, go rent the movie. You'll still love it, but there are some twists and turns, and so that for me was the entire message of the movie. And so what people wanted me to end it happy in San Francisco and just be like, that's it. And I'm like, but we've fucking seen that 1,000 times.
And that's not life. That's not life.
And who relates, anyone listening right now, who would have related to a movie where the pretty girl ends up getting everything she wanted and it was all fixed by meeting a guy? And like, you know what I mean? It's like, that wasn't the message.
Yeah.
The message was, you have no idea what tomorrow will bring unless you stay.
I loved that. I loved the idea that, not that I loved, but I thought it was very impactful that you highlighted what the people left behind experience, a severe pain of loss. And I loved that you highlighted life isn't fucking easy. And
it's not going to become magically easy.
Going to become magic. So the conversation that the two of them, the best friends and the boyfriend at the end had, was so great because that's real. It's not easy. And especially if you're genetically predisposed to depression, you battle depression, you're not going to just bounce out of that and make it easy. So I thought it was realistic, which made it great. I agree with you. If it just ended like, it's like,
you would be like, okay, well, that's great. And I'm sure it might have made an easier watch for some people who maybe can't relate as much to my story. But not anyone helpful. Who relates to my story loves the ending and loves where I take it.
And anyone who relates to your story wants the person watching it with them to see the reality.
Yeah.
Because if you end it all happy, I think that honestly is almost, it's like a disservice.
It's damaging to the person who's watching, who's like, okay, so all I got to do is make an attempt, meet a nice guy, find one friend. And you know what I mean? It's just like, okay, and then my life will be magically perfect. No, my life today is still not magically perfect, by the way. Like, and that's what I think is the other misconception, is a lot of people think because I got through that attempt, they're like, I get that question a lot at festivals, like, how did you cure? And I'm like, oh, my lovey, that'd be great. Same as like, hopefully I can just cure my addiction or like my different things. But the only way to do all of that is taking an active step one day at a time and like putting one foot in front of the other. And some days are hard, and some days I still really struggle with mental health, and some days are golden, that's life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't want to like lie to people with this white picket fence and say everything's going to be perfect after, because that's not the point.
Well, and I think you had the responsibility of being the voice of people who have struggled, and so people who are watching it, they want to see themselves. And yeah, I think you did a great job. I really, really do. So how much of the film was based on your real life?
A lot of it. There are things that differ that I changed so that it was cinematic. Like, I mean, that's anything, right? Sure. Like, I'm writing a true story right now. I've written 3 true stories that I'm directing those films. A true story can be pretty boring. You know what I mean? When you tell it in like perfect sequence to what truly happened, you still have to write a great film. So like, for instance, I didn't go to a mental institution. I was outpatient, and I was in AA heavily, like, and multiple things that, again, like, I didn't want to bring attention to like the AA name in a movie and put that like the different things. So it was like a mental institution is very much in that equivalent. And I should have, by the way, I should have gone to a mental institution. And if I had loving people who were around me at that time, I think, or if I had, someone probably should have told me to go. Yeah. But no one was there to tell me that. So I did everything outpatient, was going to therapy twice a week, was in AA every single day. I did like a 90 and 90 and then, further that. And so I did it in a different way, but the institution felt like a very great device because most of my friends who have attempted did go to institutions. The 5150 and how that whole experience went down from the opening of the film is very much what the night that I got taken in looked like. Even down to actually being in my bra and underwear, lace bra and underwear, which was like, probably should have put an outfit on before.
I'm like, only you could make that look cute.
Well, people are like, I love that you tried to make the opening like sexy. I'm like, oh no, it wasn't meant to be sexy. I was a train wreck, and I couldn't even put clothes on. You know?
It was like, well, it wasn't just that it was sexy. It was like very vibey. Like you had black nail polish, and it was like it all went with the
well, that's just who I am. Like, and at that time too, I had this like rule that like, because I used to be so mean to myself that like I would wear lingerie under my clothes no matter what. It was always for myself. And so like it just was truth. I was wearing black lingerie when the ambulance and the police came to my door and was like 5 males at my door and were like, hi. I'm like, I should probably put some clothes on now, but that's how it authentically was. The friendships that came into my life were very authentically that way. And what's really funny is so everyone thinks my script was written about my husband. But I like to say that I manifested my husband from that script because that character was just based on just the character I designed.
I almost had to call you and ask you that. Like, I'm like, is this guy, because you know what I thought would have been weird is if that was a guy, but you didn't marry him. Like this, current guy would never be able to watch that guy.
I know,
he was
right?
so great. Like you wanted that to happen, you know?
Well, even weirder, my husband played my ex. You know what I mean? The non-supportive, like, person in the movie.
Wait, your husband played the,
He was the guy who played Jackson.
He is good looking.
I know, my husband's the hottest.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
At the scene where he's like looking, where it goes back and happens again and he's watching the ambulance pull away, I'm like, dang.
I know, that's my hubby.
He's super cute.
I know, and he's
wow.
even more so than how handsome he is. Like his heart and his soul is why I'm actually with him. Like you're like, what? It's not because he's so handsome. I'm like, believe it or not, he's even got a better heart, if that's believable. Like if you can believe it.
How heavy to play that role.
I know.
Too, because he didn't even get to play the guy who ends up with you on the mend. He gets to play the guy that
watches it all
like,
which is also kind of amazing because my husband's actually never seen me on a single substance. So we've been sober ever since we got together, and even because we were friends for 3 years, 2 years, and then I was gone filming and and that was that. I told you already how I had almost 2 years sober, went out, and then came back into it. And so even when we knew each other before, he's never seen me on a single substance, and here I am in this movie, drinking, by the way, vinegar and like a substance to look like whiskey, but I wanted it to
taste bad too.
Yeah, I wanted it to make me kind of sick, how whiskey does if you're just chugging a bottle, by the way.
Also, if it was apple juice, there's just no way you could look the way.
Yeah, you would just drink it and all of the things. And I wanted it to feel when you go like at the end.
Yeah.
Well, I did do that because I was drinking apple cider vinegar in it. And imagine, you saw how much I drink in that movie. And by the end of all of the like drunken, I was like I was a mess. I was a vomiting mess because I was drinking way too much apple cider vinegar. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Was there a Janet in your real life?
Yes. It was based on a therapist I had at the time that was very helpful, but truthfully, who I named that after was my aunt, Tammy Texera, and she was, sorry, this is heavy, but she was murdered when I was here getting my very first apartment in Los Angeles. And wow, that's weird that I just got so emotional. But because when someone's just such an impact in your life and they've been gone for a really long time, but like it doesn't change.
Of course.
That she was like one of the few people who made me feel loved my whole life. And like if I couldn't sleep and I was staying over at her house because like my parents were out of town or something when I was young, she'd read me the Bible till I fell asleep, and like she was just like an empath and like a person in my life. And so while it was based on a therapist that like helped me during that time, who I was doing those 2 days, and the character is really based on my Aunt Tammy.
I love that because she was like the one that the character goes to in the night, and that character held space for your character in spite. And then when she says that her son had died, and like, oh my gosh, I was on the floor. Like I was just crying the whole time. But like, I don't want to say happy tears because they're not, but like just such meaningful. It's such meaningful
tears. Yeah. Like, because when you text me too, it's like,
I didn't even write.
I mean, someone's saying I'm bawling my eyes out, but I could feel the happy, if that makes sense. Like I knew it was with love that you were crying, that you connected,
Yes. One of the things, so I work with teenage girls, and, they're in large part, recovering from substance abuse. And, many of them don't come from great families, supportive families. And one of the things that's been very, very difficult for me is to have boundaries with these kids. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've almost just taken them home with me. I mean, I actually had one call me the other day and say she's going to have nowhere to live at 18. I'm like, you will always have a place to live. And the thing that struck me was when you do the scene in the mental hospital and you won't talk to anybody and you're not eating, and whether that part was actually your life or not, I see that so much when kids check into treatment. They are so angry. They won't talk. They don't eat. And I'm going to cry now. I just thought it was so great that you put that part in there because kids are so misunderstood and they're seen as like defiant, difficult. And it takes a special person. It takes a special organization to stick it out with a kid like that. you know?
Well, and like a lot of people I feel like thought I did that scene. It's not that they thought. I think in my brain maybe I've created like, it's a heavy film. It's very like, a lot of the films I love are very heavy. Requiem for a Dream, for example.
Yeah.
Love that movie. It'll stay with me forever. I don't watch it all that often, right? But the reason that was really important to me is like, because I also had a really gnarly eating disorder as a way of like self-harming, know, and like I restricted all the time. And so it's like often when there's one, there's another, it's like there's other things that people are struggling with. So for me, it's like, especially when you're in that kind of darkness, you're doing all of the things that aren't healthy for you. You're probably restricting, you're closing off rather than opening, which is what you need, So it was like, I guess every part of the way, all I wanted to do was honor the truth of like, of how it can look when you're in that darkness. And only someone who understands that darkness fully understands, I think, what I was trying to do. You know what I mean? Like, that's why it's like when people who are my people see the film, it's like, it brings the most beautiful conversations because, I know you've been through stuff in your life. Yeah, like
it's different.
Just a few conversations we've had, I know you've been through stuff in your life. And so it's kind of like, that you won't be judged by the people that they actually get it,
Yeah, I actually had one of the girls that I help is 17, and she was texting me last night. I was on the plane actually, and she said, she's struggling pretty heavy, pretty deep stuff. And so she's feeling like, she said, I feel very far from myself. What is your advice to young girls who feel like they don't see much hope for themselves? They can't tap into much joy. She's sober, which is amazing.
Yeah, by the grace of God. I mean, that's the first thing I would say. I mean, literally, anytime someone talks to me, I mean, the only reason I'm on this planet right now is because I'm sober. Because anytime I drank, I attempted to hurt myself, Right. So it got to the point where it's like, if I had to stay drinking, every attempt I made, and there was numerous attempts. That's what I always say.
You were always
continues
drunk.
About one. Yeah, I was always drunk. And I mean, and there are people in my life who saved me from jumping off buildings and different things in my life. So the truth is, drinking is the first thing. So she's already on the right step. But truthfully, from feeling far from yourself and feeling like there isn't hope, you just have to put one step in front of the other, because I can't say it happened quickly.
Right.
But when it does happen, when that window happens where you realize that we have the power to change your life and that you're already feeling better, when you're actively taking the steps every day, like it didn't happen quickly for me. Like I mean, I felt good. You start working out when you get sober, or you already don't feel like shit in the morning. Like there's little glimpses there along the way, but feeling like I was going to be able to manage my suicidal depression all of my life. Like it took a while for me to realize like, okay, I think it's this, as soon as I realized my tools, right? Yeah. Like what the tools in my toolbox are that keep me healthy. I felt like I wasn't powerless anymore. That's the truth. Like when trying to think of that answer, it's that I started to notice the actual steps I had to take to feel better, and that every time I did them, I did feel better. It might not have been a cure. I might not have felt like, oh my God, my life is going to be different. But it made me feel like I could get to tomorrow.
And when you're that low, a little bit is a lot.
Yes.
I've been there.
It's like, I can't even tell, like, because, people are like, oh, then you met then the this and the that. And it's like, no, that came later. It was just like being able to look in the mirror and be kind to that girl and to realize, the truth of it, I think, is when I realized that a lot of the shit that I've been carrying and my biggest problems weren't mine. A lot of them came from my family. A lot of them came from witnessing. A lot of them, I have PTSD from my childhood. And I mean, I was only finally diagnosed with severe PTSD in 2021.
Oh, wow.
So imagine how many years of a nervous system that feels completely unsafe anytime it's dysregulated. And I mean, like, I can't, this is so close to me, but I shrink inside myself. It was just like a skeletal structure.
And
the second my dad's
works.
thing would happen. Yes.
That's the the fucked up thing is it does work. I mean,
until it doesn't. I would say I was a chemist.
And
this thing won't keep, it's moving. It's like,
it may,
closer to you.
It may be followed by a shitty afternoon or whatever, or suicide attempt, but in the moment it turns that off, you know? And that's why it's hard for people to stay away from, especially when life happens, life events happen, you know? So the boyfriend wasn't real in the movie. That was, okay. What about
Well, that was based on like, I always like to say Trenton, the lead guy, is a composite of all of my greatest romances in my life. So they're all based on people.
Yeah, of course.
Like almost all of them are. So the thing about Continue that I love, like that's why it's like a lot of it's my life, a lot of it's not. No, almost every scene of dialogue is a conversation I've had in the scene.
Right.
It just might have been about something else, or like the honesty game. Which is what Trenton and them play that day by the pool when they basically start giving off their deepest traumas to be like, let's just cut through the bullshit. Yeah. That was a real moment I had with someone who I was very in love with at the time. And that romance lasted a very brief window, but it taught me so much, right? So I took all of the most romantic moments I've had in my life and the moments, like, again, completely different guy, is when we're going to Joshua Tree. You've never been? We're going right now. Like, so just little moments that people showed me kindness that really changed my life in that moment that I needed at the time, you know? So they're all memories. They're all moments from my life. They just weren't there. They were a composite, you know, of a bunch of different people made into one. And I like to say that's what manifested my perfect guy, which is my husband.
You're such a storyteller, Nadine. I mean, it's like just so fascinating to watch it and then to listen to like how your mind works and just like the artistry, I think is super cool. What would you say ultimately turned things around for you? So obviously you got sober.
That's number one.
Yeah. So then from there, your mind shift starts to...
really going back, like when you really ask me that and I go back to it, I cut my family out of my life, which I've had to do many times in my life, and currently not all my family's in my life currently, you know? So it's things that like when you realize that unhealthy family relationships and non-existent boundaries and you know, traumatic events are constantly seeping into your life, you have to make a choice at a certain point. Can I stay healthy with this constantly unfolding around me and constantly re-traumatizing me? Right. And none of this has anything to do with me, yet it makes my entire world spin. Like at the time, my family, when I really attempted those several times, was in complete disarray. And I won't go into too much of it because it's not necessarily just my story to tell. It was my sister was having her own struggles. Everyone was having their own struggles at that time. So I walked away from my family at that time because they had to get healthy, same as I did. And I was just going to go down with the ship. None of us were healthy at the time. I got sober. So a huge part of that also, what I'll go into is like with those same boundaries, people always are like, I couldn't cut my friends out of my life when I get sober. And I'm like, you don't have to. They do it very quickly for you. So a lot of my friends and acquaintances and like people I went out with quickly vanished when you're no longer the fun.
It's a different lifestyle.
Yeah, fun living friend who gets you free drinks and can get you into clubs and like do all the things. Again, by the way, like was doing all of that before I was even 21. Right. You know, so a clean house. And I got out of the relationship I was in at that time, and
so keeping your circle safe, really.
Got a job, was very, very strict about where I'd work, and I threw myself into my creative. Got into class, started writing those scenes, started trying to understand it more, and I guess it kind of, the truth is it kind of takes a quiet isolation. And I know that isolating can sound like a negative thing, but when everything around you is bleeding in not positivity, but actually negativity, it does take cleaning house and stepping back. And I worked very vigorous. I mean, like, this is something I'm always very honest about. I have an entire team. Like, that helps me stay my healthiest version. I have a life coach. I have a psychiatrist. I have, sometimes I have a psychiatrist and a therapist I'm working with, because psychiatry is like, for medicine. The other is for talk therapy. And then I have a life coach because I want someone who's going to actually tell me, like, here's your homework, come back, let's talk about it next week and form a plan.
Right.
Then a nutritionist, then a personal trainer, and you fucking name it. If I have to do that in order to be healthy and to stay sane and to be my best version of myself, then I better up my income so that I can say that, that's what I've always said. Like, at first it was just trying to create an income high enough to maintain all of the things that I need to be the best version of myself.
I thought you were gonna say you have a team, like somebody. I was thinking nobody answered my email, but like,
oh, hell no,
I'm
still
a mental health
those.
team.
No, I got a mental health team. I got a team that's like helps me stay the best version of myself, and and all my friends now, like, which just ended up happening. You find a lot of great sober people. I didn't meet most of them from meetings. I met them out in life. Like, what's amazing about today, you and I spoke about this, is like most of the world's getting sober. Yeah. They weren't getting sober when I was getting sober, but now so many people I meet are sober. And so I have like a great community of sober friends, and like those moments where you're like, beyond just having a sponsor you can talk to, I have friends I can talk to about things now too. And like, a really close friend of mine, Olivia, like, who will be like, well, do you feel like you're being emotionally sober? And I'm like, I'm not my most emotionally sober at this moment.
Good question.
Yeah. I'm like, let me take 10 and come back to you on that,
I think we both know the answer. Yeah.
Exactly. She's like, so I guess my one advice for you, have you been to a meeting today? And I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is, like, with that friend in particular, her advice when I need it almost always comes down to a meeting. And every time I go, almost always fixes how I was feeling.
Well, it's just such a perspective shift, right? And like, it doesn't take a ton at this stage in the game. It's just like being willing to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I told you, but I just signed a book contract. So I'm writing a parenting book, of all things. But the premise of the book is a little bit about, we don't show up to this parenting game empty-handed, right? We bring all of our shit to the party, whether it's good and bad, right? Like, I grew up with no money, pretty poor, so I'm gritty, I've got hustle, all that's great, but I also was pretty traumatized by my husband, so I brought that, right? So with your story, how does your suicide attempt and your depression, addiction, how does that impact how you parent your son?
In every way. I love my parents very much. But mostly what that taught me is what I didn't want to do. So you just feel bad when you're admitting that half of it was really basically learning from everything I didn't receive as a child, and being like, I'm going to be the mother I never had, or the father I never had, or whatever it is, And the truth of it is, since I was little, I've had big emotions. I'm a creator. I'm an artist. I said since 4 years old, I've watched my dad's music videos because he was a country singer. I was born in Nashville, Tennessee. I grew up in Fresno. When he finally gave up his dreams, he moved there. And the reason he gave up his dreams is because my grandfather ended his life.
Wow.
So a lot of trauma around dreams for him, a lot of
generational trauma for you.
Hugely generational trauma. Also, my dad has some of the most severe PTSD, OCD, and alcoholism I've ever seen, but my dad's sober. I mean, he's a dry drunk. So my dad has never drank most of his life because his dad was a terrible alcoholic. But he has every ism his father ever had. Yeah. But he doesn't drink. So like, imagine when people were like, you should go to Al-Anon. I'm like, well, my dad doesn't drink. And he's like, well, he sure as hell picked up every ism of his father, and, so sometimes it's hard for me because my dad's existence of his childhood makes mine look like a goddamn Girl Scout trip. I don't know how else to say it. It was like truly atrocious. So like, you can't really, I feel so much sympathy for my dad and what he went through. And I'm not surprised by the trauma he carries with him and the dad all of the things. So long story short, it showed me how I wanted to respond to my son's big emotions, how I wanted to I just always wanted to be the person there that made him feel loved no matter what it was, how big it was. And obviously with my son being neurodivergent, you know, and having autism, those tantrums, those big emotions, they looked really big, and they would have been pretty overwhelming for someone else who hadn't their whole life been told they were too much if they cried, or they're this, or you're so dramatic, or you're so for me, I will never make him feel that way, right? I'll never. So I carried that with me, and I sat with him in the muck, and I never made him feel like he was too much for that. And you know, and I learned from who he was and how I could be the best parent, and I kept adapting and I kept learning, and we learned everything you could on autism, and we were in every single therapy. And I mean, it was like a full-time job. At a certain point you almost feel bad, like, you know, because then I'd have some parents who made me feel judged that I had him in occupational therapy, speech, ABA, like all these things. I mean, he was going all day and night, and so was I, to be there with him and to have all of that. And I had to pick up a second job just to pay for all of those services before he got his actual diagnosis. And then the government helps you pay for some of those things. But like, as 27-year-old, you know, kids at the time, me and my husband and my son at 2 had already fully regressed. He was nonverbal till like 5.
Wow.
And now if you talk to my son, like, you'd have absolutely no idea that was our existence. But at 4 and 5, they're teaching me how to restrain my child so he can't hurt himself or us in the middle of a tantrum, as he's bashing his head into the ground, and, you know, doing these things because he can't have a toy, you know, or like.
How did you cope with that?
The fact I'm sober today. No, like, that's what me and my husband say. Like there's certain days where you're like, well, I don't know that I've ever actually said this out loud. I went through a child being diagnosed with autism, some of the most severe and helpless moments as a parent, a sexual assault trial, this, that, all of this, while still somehow staying sober. I don't know. Truthfully, some days, because I had an amazing partner who was holding my hand through the whole day, and when I was sitting there crying, feeling helpless, he's like, we're going to be okay. And when he was doing it, I was looking at him saying, we're going to be okay. And I think just knowing that we truly weren't alone was enough to get us through every day.
Yeah. That's another thing that Amy, the founder of Tower 28, said this morning. Who you choose as a partner is definitely the most important choice of your life, because it's the only family member you choose, because you don't meet your kids, right, before you choose them.
Yeah.
So I too
or your family that you're born into, they're the only choice you actually.
And the most important. I too have a great husband, and I am so grateful. You know, when he annoys me with his chewing, I try and remember.
I love you. I couldn't feel more seen just by that comment, because they know the name of the disorder when when it's mouth noises. My sister and my husband like literally write me texts about it.
I can't.
My whole life, I have been like, most of the fights I ever gotten with my mom is like, if I'd be doing homework, she'd come over to check what I'm doing, and always with a full mouth.
Absolutely not.
And she just always describes the look I would give her, like, I'm going to punch you in the face. I'm like, yeah, nothing's changed. The only person who can do that and survive is my son.
Correct. And guess what? It ages out, I think. I'm not sure yet. So my 11-year-old will smack his lips and he'll say, does it bother you yet, Mom? And I'm like, no, it doesn't. But then my husband can't even eat a fucking chip. Like, he's like, what do you want me to, like, suck on it till it's moist and then swallow it?
Or
like, it's a chip. Or, like, I don't let him eat ice cream in bed because I don't even like the spoon, like, clicking the side of the bowl.
Oh, see, mine's more like mouth. Like,
mine's every sound.
Okay, but you have to understand, my husband's going to be watching this, like, babe, he has huge, beautiful teeth. Like, gorgeous teeth. Like, I bought my teeth to look like his, okay? That man eating an apple, I could kill him. I could stab him right here.
It's like a horse.
I joke. I'm like, I did a movie called, oh God, I can't. I did a movie called Rodeo and Juliet. I'm like, you are Rodeo right now, and I'm about to kill you. Like, go outside.
Just
and his favorite snack is a fucking apple.
Oh my God.
It's a wonder we've made it to 10 years.
I text my friend sometimes, please remind me how much I love my husband because he's fucking eating right now. And she's like, do not say anything. And I'm just like,
I know.
So that's what I try to remind myself. He has gotten me through everything. Everything. Without him, I'm literally nothing.
Dude, well,
but yet he can't eat an apple.
But exactly. And we're that quick that we might actually remove him from this world because he ate that apple next to me. That being said, he'll looks at me all the time and he's like, well, who would feed and water you? Because my husband, so this is who I am as a creative. Also, it probably, or maybe it's my mental health and it paired me with a great profession.
Let's see what it is. I'll let you know.
My writing is much like what other people describe as mania. My last movie I wrote in 5 days. The movie before that I wrote in 7. My biggest budget, huge film that I'm obsessed with took me 11 days. Now, don't get me wrong. I clean it after that.
But also, aren't you writing it in your head for a long time in different ways?
Well, here's the thing. My husband would say is I'm never not writing.
Yes.
And here's why. Because I could be sitting with you and he goes, where'd you just go? And I'm like, looking off, right? Just wrote a full scene. And then I'm texting and he's like, who are you texting?
Yeah.
And if you look at my computer, the number one person I'm normally texting is myself. Full scenes that I just dreamt up and wrote in a text message to myself. Get to my computer, copy and paste that all into Final Draft, and then I format it. And then that scene is done. So I'm never not writing. That's the other reason it gets done in 5 days. Or even after that, I'm cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. And so a lot of my process looks like I flow. I call it channeling. Mm-hmm. So I believe I'm writing in collaboration with Muse, God, whoever you want to say it is. But these stories are coming to me through them. I'm a channel. I work with them. And then I clean it and clean it and clean it. And then my knowledge behind plot or this helps increase that, right?
Sure.
And but during that time when you're writing in 5 days, I'm behind a computer for 16 hours and he's coming and slowly shutting it. I'm just looking up like, where are you? What day is it? What's happening? And he's like, it's now 9:00. You've been writing for 17 hours.
Oh, I love him.
Your son needs to go to bed and you need to come cuddle. And have you ate today? And I'm like, no, I didn't eat. Like, so through the day, I'm sitting there typing and without words, a smoothie gets put on my coaster next to me. And I'm just like, thank you. Later, a water bottle, a green juice, a this, because I'm not good at that. Yeah. I'm not good at taking. It's literally my next script. Yeah. I just wrote it in. The best friend says what my husband always says, like, how old are you? You can't water and feed yourself. I'm like, I can do a lot of amazing things. Taking care of myself
is not one. Yet the guy can't have an apple.
He can't have an apple or I'll divorce him. Or I can't have a dream.
Yeah.
Do you know? Like, dude, I'm the person who wakes up from a dream and I can't even look at him because he was a total sociopath in my dream. And he's like, how long are you going to be mad at me? I'm like, give me till noon. And I'll be over it. Because you had a cheating dream. Do you ever get those? I'm
like, oh, of course. Every woman
like every crazy woman, all of my friends, I love it because we all get it. But it's like, once I have a dream where he eats an apple, I'm like looking at him for a few hours.
You never know what they're going to be in trouble for. So tell me a little bit more about the nonprofit, because I believe this is all about giving back. What I'm doing in my world, even the podcast, passing it down, giving back. I'm very interested about this.
The nonprofit has been one of the hardest things I've ever done. Believe it or not. Overwriting, over-directing, like all of these things that took me 21 years of being in Los Angeles to do. And here's why. Because I think when you get into the world of giving back, we all want to make an impact, right?
Yeah.
But what you don't realize is everyone wants to make an impact with the thing they're doing. Not, and I thought we'd like all get to join together and do these cool things. So it's a very interesting process being creating a nonprofit and doing all of that, because all I want is to make like incredible impact. And it's a really hard process to like get up and running, So my mission for my nonprofit, and the reason I created it, the reason I saved every dime I had to even get to this nonprofit status and to get to where I'm at today, is because I want to pay for the mental health services for underprivileged youth who cannot pay for services themselves.
Love.
That's my only dream. That's why I created it. The other mission of Continue On is to continue to elevate mental health storytelling. Sure. Creating PSAs, creating more content on social media that says, hey, other people struggle with this too. Let's talk about it, right? So it's multiple purposes. I keep those, if you donate to the nonprofit, I keep that separate. If you want to donate to an episode of Continue On, that's completely separate, because I understand also you want to know what you're going towards, what your cause. But my true dream is to create this subsidy to start paying for mental health services. But to create a subsidy, it takes a lot of money, and it's been really, really challenging to get to really start to create enough impact to do that, right? So right now I'm in the phase of partnering with mental health professionals. So I got a couple of therapists who were like, I would do one session a week and donate my time if you want to pair me with one of your people. And I'm like, great. Now I got to start figuring out, how do I get in touch with the mental health youth, that need to start. So I'm like in that process, and and trying to do my first gala to like actually start to get enough funds to actually start to create this, so I'm going like 3 different routes, and it's been a really of first finding mental health care professionals, or and then I also want to start creating workshops where we use the arts to talk about mental health and how we're feeling. And I want to start really primarily with youth and children to kind of teach them, like, write us a script about how you're feeling and your own emotions, and then let someone else say it, and like see the therapeutic release that you can also feel from that. Because I know firsthand from creating Continue how healing that process was. It wasn't, I guess it could have gone several different ways. It could have been like re-traumatizing, but for me, because I kept it about who I hoped it would help, it was extremely therapeutic for me, rather than revisiting and like reopening that wound, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I thought it was very therapeutic also. I thought about sending it to all my girls, and then I wasn't sure if they're too young, so I want to think about that a little bit, but I do think it can be very impactful. And my husband and I founded a national behavioral health company in 2008. So that's kind of the world we're in. And I run the adolescent program. So
I was reading that today and was like, Anthony goes, wow, this person, she couldn't be more spot on with what you're like looking to do and trying to do. So I'm definitely going to need to pick your brain, because I think it's incredible what you're doing. It's basically what I want to be doing. Like, I just want to help kids, youth. Like, I mean, because youth to me doesn't stop like, you get kicked off your parents' insurance at like 26, and you're like, but I still have no idea what I'm doing with my life. And I just remember that feeling too. So that's why I was like, I want the range of what we consider youth to be, wider and, different things. But yeah, I think it's incredible what you're doing. And that's all I truly want to do is give back and make a difference, and the truth is, it almost always comes back to, when you are experiencing suicidal depression or sobriety struggles or mental health challenges, whatever your struggles look like, it is an extremely isolating feeling. And you feel like, or for me personally, I felt like a burden at the time. Like, I thought I was doing the people in my life a favor, right? Like, I felt like I was a burden, and me being down, and my emotions, and my this and my that. And I thought that I was a freak because I didn't know anyone else felt that way, because no one else really talks about it, and the only times I ever even knew my parents did that or felt that way, or my dad, is when there was a huge situation that unfolded in a very traumatic way that then none of us ever spoke about again, which doesn't make you feel less alone. It actually makes you feel like, wait, it looks like you might actually have some of the same feelings that I'm feeling, but we're not allowed to talk about that, right? So all I wanted to do was to talk about it, essentially, to let other people know they're not alone, I feel like it's a really isolating feeling in those moments.
It is, and I just want to say thank you, because that film is so meaningful, especially to young girls. And it isn't about, saying you have a perfect life now or anything like that, but the fact that you did get through that, and that you are in the world helping other people now. I see daily these kids, and they need people like that to look up to. So the fact that you've taken, made your life into this, and this is like your life's mission, is so amazing. It really is. And I want to thank you for coming on the podcast, for doing what you do. And if someone wanted to see this movie Continue, or find you personally or for the nonprofit, how would they do so?
I'm on Instagram, social media, at Nadine Crocker. Continue On org is my nonprofit. That is, there's episodes on there. There's some really cool stuff coming there. We have merch. I was really trying to bring you some of our merch, but it didn't get it in time. But we have mental health clothing and semicolon clothing that I've been creating, and jewelry, and who Caitlin Crosby, the Given Key. We have a Continue semicolon key there. So we're just trying to constantly elevate mental health in every way, humanly possible way that we can. So Continue on org. And then you can watch Continue. We were on Paramount Plus. I think it just went off of Paramount Plus, but you can still rent it on Apple.
Yeah, I rented it
Amazon,
on Apple.
anywhere you can rent or buy any movie, you can rent Continue, or my film Desperation Road.
I'm gonna watch that next.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Go watch Continue. It is amazing, and anything I can do in collaboration to help you reach your goals, I would love to do.
That means so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Nadine.